If you own a home in London, Strathroy, or anywhere across southwestern Ontario, there's a good chance you've experienced this exact situation before. Your air conditioner starts acting up right when the weather gets brutally hot. Maybe the house won't cool properly anymore. Maybe the airflow feels weaker than it used to. Maybe the outdoor unit starts making noises that definitely weren't there last summer. So naturally, you call somebody to repair it because most homeowners are trying to avoid replacing equipment if they don't absolutely have to. And honestly, that's a completely reasonable way to think at first. Nobody gets excited about spending thousands of dollars on a new air conditioner. Most people would rather repair something if the repair makes sense. But over the years, we've seen a lot of homeowners slowly get trapped in a cycle where repairs stop being smart maintenance and start becoming a financial drain. And the difficult part is that it usually happens gradually.
That's exactly it. It's rarely one giant catastrophic moment right away. Usually it starts with one repair that seems manageable. Maybe a capacitor fails. Then next summer it's a contactor or a fan motor. Then maybe the refrigerant charge is low. Then later on there's another service call because the system keeps freezing up or struggling during extreme heat. Individually, those repairs don't always sound terrifying. But eventually, you have to stop looking at each repair separately and start looking at the bigger overall pattern. Because once an older air conditioner starts having repeated issues, that system is often telling you it's reaching the end of its reliable lifespan. And one thing homeowners sometimes misunderstand is that a system can technically still operate while still being a bad investment to keep repairing. There's a huge difference between it still turns on and it's still dependable.
That's such an important distinction because a lot of people judge their air conditioner by one simple question. Does cold air still come out? And if the answer is yes, they assume the system must still be okay. But what we see inside homes is that performance can decline slowly over years. The unit runs longer. It struggles more during humid weather. Hydro bills slowly increase. Certain rooms stop cooling evenly. The system sounds louder. Recovery times get slower after the thermostat changes. All these little signs start adding up long before complete failure happens. And honestly, homeowners often adapt to declining comfort so gradually that they stop noticing how much the system is struggling. Then, when they finally replace the equipment, they suddenly realize how uncomfortable the house had actually become over the previous few summers.
And another thing we see a lot is homeowners becoming emotionally attached to older equipment because it's been reliable for a long time. We hear it constantly. This thing has been a tank for 20 years. And honestly, some of those older systems absolutely were built extremely well. But longevity alone doesn't necessarily mean future repairs are still a smart investment. Eventually, mechanical systems wear out no matter how well they were originally built. Compressors age, motors weaken, coils corrode. Electrical components go through years and years of heat cycles and vibration. And one of the biggest mistakes homeowners make is assuming that replacing one failed component somehow resets the age of the whole machine. It doesn't. You can replace one part today, but the rest of the system still has all the same operating hours and age-related wear that it had yesterday.
And honestly, one of the biggest reasons this conversation matters is because air conditioners usually fail during the absolute worst possible timing. They don't fail on mild 22-degree days in June when every company has lots of open appointment availability. They fail during 35-degree humid heat waves when service calls explode across the entire region. That's when homeowners suddenly find themselves under pressure. Now they're stressed. The house is hot. Everybody's uncomfortable. Maybe kids can't sleep upstairs. Maybe elderly family members are struggling with the heat. And now, instead of calmly planning a replacement, they're forced into emergency decisions because cooling suddenly became urgent. And emergency replacements are almost never ideal. The people who usually have the best experience are the homeowners who recognize the warning signs early and start having replacement conversations before the total breakdown happens.
And there are definitely warning signs people should pay attention to. Repeated refrigerant leaks are a major one. If your air conditioner keeps needing refrigerant added every summer, that's not normal maintenance. Refrigerant doesn't get consumed during operation. If it's low, there's a leak somewhere in the system. Now, sometimes leaks can absolutely be repaired properly. But on older systems, especially older R22 systems, homeowners really need to evaluate whether continued leak repairs still make financial sense. because now you're potentially paying for leak searches, repairs, refrigerant, labor, and there's still no guarantee another leak won't develop later somewhere else in the aging coil. We've seen homeowners spend huge amounts trying to patch older systems together because nobody stepped back and honestly discussed whether the equipment itself was simply reaching the end of the road.
And compressor problems are another huge turning point. Once compressors start struggling, hard starting, overheating, or failing entirely, you're entering major repair territory. That's when homeowners really need to stop and look at the bigger picture, because the compressor is basically the heart of the air conditioner. And if you're talking about investing serious money into compressor-related repairs on a system that's already 15 years old or more, you have to ask yourself how much confidence you realistically have in the rest of the equipment moving forward. That's the question people sometimes avoid because they don't want to think about replacement costs. But honestly, continuing to invest large amounts into aging systems without evaluating long-term reliability can end up costing far more in the long run.
One of the biggest patterns we've noticed over the years is that homeowners tend to make repair decisions emotionally in the moment instead of financially over the long term. And honestly, that's understandable because nobody likes surprise expenses. Let's say somebody gets hit with an $800 or $1,000 repair bill. In their mind, they're thinking, well, that's still cheaper than replacing the entire air conditioner. And technically, for today, that's true. But what they're often not thinking about is what happens over the next 2 or 3 years if the system keeps deteriorating. Because once older systems start needing multiple repairs, those repair cycles often accelerate instead of slowing down.
Exactly. The first repair often becomes the beginning of a pattern rather than the end of the problem. Maybe this summer it's a fan motor. Then next year the outdoor coil develops issues. Then maybe the compressor starts drawing high amperage during heat waves. Then another electrical issue pops up because other components are aging at the same time. Now suddenly, the homeowner has spent thousands trying to keep an old system alive, and they still don't actually trust the equipment anymore. And honestly, that's a miserable position for homeowners to be in. We've seen people spend entire summers listening for strange noises every time the air conditioner starts up, because they're constantly wondering if this is finally the breakdown that takes the whole system out. That's not really peace of mind anymore.
And another hidden cost people don't always calculate is energy efficiency decline. Older systems often become expensive to operate long before they completely stop working. The air conditioner runs longer cycles. It struggles during peak afternoon temperatures. It may not remove humidity properly anymore. Hydro bills slowly creep higher every summer. And homeowners sometimes assume rising hydro costs are just normal utility increases, when in reality, the HVAC system itself is becoming less efficient and working much harder to cool the house. Then they finally replace the equipment, and suddenly the home cools faster, humidity improves, and the runtime drops dramatically during hot weather. That's when people realize just how hard the old unit had actually been struggling.
And honestly, comfort improvement is something homeowners don't always think enough about during replacement conversations. They focus heavily on whether the old unit technically still works, but not enough on how well it's actually performing. Is the upstairs comfortable anymore? Does the system cool evenly? Does the house feel sticky and humid even when the thermostat says the temperature is correct? Does the air conditioner run constantly on really hot days? Those are all signs that the system may no longer be operating effectively, even if it still technically functions. And sometimes people don't realize how much comfort they've slowly lost over time until they experience a properly functioning modern system again.
And this is where honest contractor conversations become really important. Because good HVAC companies shouldn't just ask, can this be repaired? They should also ask, should this be repaired? That's a completely different conversation. And unfortunately, homeowners don't always get that bigger picture explanation. Sometimes they're simply presented with a repair quote without anybody discussing the overall condition of the system, the remaining lifespan expectations, the refrigerant situation, or the likelihood of future repairs. Transparency matters a lot here, because sometimes repair absolutely is the right move. If the system is relatively young and the issue is minor, repairing it can make perfect sense. But other times, continuing to repair an aging system becomes more about delaying the inevitable than making a smart long-term decision.
And another thing we always encourage homeowners to think about is planning versus reacting. There's a huge difference between choosing to replace your air conditioner and being forced to replace it during an emergency. When homeowners plan ahead, they have time to compare options carefully. They can ask questions. They can evaluate efficiency levels. They can properly budget. They can schedule installation during calmer periods instead of during extreme weather emergencies. That usually leads to better decisions and a far less stressful experience overall. But when systems fail unexpectedly during peak summer heat, now everybody's under pressure. Homeowners are uncomfortable, companies are overloaded, parts and scheduling become tighter, and that's when rushed decisions happen.
And honestly, one of the saddest situations we see is homeowners who already know deep down the system is nearing the end, but they keep pouring money into it because they're trying to avoid replacement for one more season. Then suddenly, that one more season turns into repeated breakdowns, lost sleep during heat waves, multiple repair invoices, and eventually, a replacement anyway. And by that point, they often tell us the same thing. I wish we had just done this earlier. Because once the new system goes in, the house becomes comfortable again. The stress disappears. The reliability returns. The noise is lower. The humidity improves. And they're no longer wondering every hot day whether the old unit is finally about to quit. That peace of mind matters more than people sometimes realize.
So the big question homeowners always ask is this: how do you actually know when repair officially becomes a waste of money? And honestly, there's no perfect universal formula, because every house and every system is different. But there are definitely several major factors that should all be evaluated together. Age matters. Repair frequency matters. Efficiency decline matters. Refrigerant type matters. Comfort performance matters. And probably most importantly, your confidence in the system's future reliability matters. If your air conditioner is older and you're starting to experience repeated repairs or declining performance, that's usually the point where replacement conversations should at least begin.
And homeowners should also ask themselves a really simple question. If I approve this repair today, how much confidence do I realistically have in this system over the next few summers? Because sometimes the honest answer is not much. And if that's the case, that tells you something important right there, especially if major repairs are involved. A small repair on a healthy 8-year-old system is very different than spending major money on a 15 or 16-year-old unit that's already showing multiple signs of age. That's where people need to step back emotionally and evaluate the long-term picture honestly.
And honestly, homeowners should never feel guilty about proactively replacing aging equipment before catastrophic failure happens. Some people almost feel like they have to squeeze every last possible day out of a system, no matter how unreliable it becomes. But proactive replacement can actually be the more financially responsible decision in a lot of situations, especially when you consider the hidden costs of repeated repairs, higher hydro bills, declining comfort, emergency service calls, and constant uncertainty during heat waves. At some point, reliability itself becomes valuable. And modern cooling systems can improve overall quality of life in ways homeowners sometimes underestimate until after installation happens.
Better humidity control is a huge one. A lot of older systems struggle badly with humidity removal as they age. So even when the thermostat says the home is technically cool enough, the house still feels damp or sticky. Modern, properly sized systems usually manage humidity much better, which makes the home feel more comfortable overall, even at similar temperatures. Noise reduction is another thing people notice immediately. Some older outdoor units sound like small aircraft starting up every time they kick on. Then the new system goes in and suddenly the operation is dramatically quieter, both inside and outside the home. And better airflow and temperature consistency can make a massive difference too, especially in two-story homes where upstairs bedrooms were always hard to cool.
And we should also mention that homeowners should never feel pressured into immediate replacement decisions without understanding the reasoning behind them. A good contractor should be able to explain clearly what's wrong with the system, what repairs are needed, what risks exist moving forward, what the realistic lifespan expectations are, and whether continued repairs genuinely make financial sense. That honesty matters, because this shouldn't be about scaring people into replacing equipment unnecessarily. It should be about helping homeowners make informed decisions with realistic expectations.
And honestly, some of the best conversations we have with homeowners are the balanced ones where we say, repair it for now, but start preparing because bigger expenses may be coming. Not every situation has to be all or nothing immediately. Sometimes homeowners need time to plan financially, evaluate options, or prepare for replacement properly. That's completely reasonable too. The important thing is avoiding the trap where repeated repairs continue long after the system has realistically become unreliable. Because at some point, continuing to repair aging equipment stops being proactive maintenance and starts becoming expensive postponement.
And that's probably the perfect place to wrap this one up. If your air conditioner has been struggling lately, hopefully today's episode helped give you a better framework for evaluating whether continued repairs still make sense or whether it might finally be time to start considering replacement more seriously. Because every system eventually reaches a point where reliability, efficiency, and overall comfort become more valuable than squeezing out one more temporary repair.
And as always, our goal with this podcast is simply to help homeowners make informed decisions without all the pressure, confusion, and sales tactics that sometimes exist in this industry. We genuinely appreciate everybody listening each week, whether you're following along on Spotify, YouTube, or social media.
And if today's episode helped you, make sure you subscribe, follow the podcast, and share it with somebody who's currently dealing with an aging air conditioner or trying to decide whether another repair is really worth it.
Thanks again for spending part of your day with us, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Air Design Answers.